Hello everyone, and welcome to my Let's Play of Dark Souls. This is the second episode, and this is Too Tall Tom. And welcome to my channel, and thank you for the 7 of you viewing this video. So, I don't know where to start. I guess what I could talk about a little bit is that Dark Souls 2 is just around the corner, so this is pretty well going to be my last character of Dark Souls, which is, you know, kind of big to think about, really. I mean, it's been such a great game. You know, I've spent about 600 hours in it. I'm sure there's a lot of people that spend over 1,000 and even more. There's probably people that picked it up when it first came out and didn't ever stop playing it. It is an amazing game. Not a game for everyone, though. Like, I wouldn't be going around to people and being like, hey, you should try Dark Souls. Hey, you should... No, it's definitely a game that its audience will find it. It's not going to go out and, you know, try and get the Skyrim audience, which I heard stuff about Dark Souls 2 trying, but I'm guessing it's a joke, and I know FromSoft isn't, you know, FromSoft has gotten a lot of the people who, I don't know where I'm going with this, I guess a lot of people who played Dark Souls, I'm assuming don't really know that FromSoft is a decently big developer with quite a few titles. You know, I loved their Chromehounds game, although when they shut off the servers, you got pretty well, you know, handicapped for the whole experience. Because once you're S rank on all the missions, there's nothing else to do. All you can do is just, oh hey, I could go keep doing these missions that are, I mean, they were interesting and tense at the time, but I don't think any of them really stood out as being, holy crap, that was amazingly fun. But I have beaten the campaign twice, so I think the hardest mission I remember in Chromehounds is the stupid mission where you have to be the commander that's commanding in a desert storm. So you're completely useless, whereas every other commander mission you can just pretty well strap a soldier tank with the commander headpiece and win the battle for your team. So anyway, back to Dark Souls, you know, the video at hand. So yeah, March 14th, I believe, is the release date. It's just around the corner. It's going to be really exciting. From what I've seen in the very few videos that I've allowed myself to watch, because I've been trying to really not spoil the game for myself, and I've been really good so far. I've only really watched the VGA tour, the Cursed trailer, and the 1-minute trailer that were all released. I haven't watched a lot of in-depth stuff besides a lore video, which I know from my experiences at Dark Souls 1 may be spoilers to some people, but for the way I play the game isn't really spoilers, because a lot of times, and I did this with Dark Souls, the lore is an after the fact for me. I mean, it kind of gives substance to what you're doing, but it's not really mandatory in a game like Dark Souls, which is really underappreciated in this industry. I mean, think about how many games are basically telling you the story and leading you by the hand and telling you exactly who's the bad guy, who's the good guy. You know, in this game, you know, are you a good guy? Are you the bad guy? You know, you're good because you're going through Blighttown and trying to save all the undead, but are you a bad guy because you killed this horribly mutated girl who basically her mother was just trying to let the fire last a little bit longer and ended up horribly failing and disfiguring and pretty well destroying her entire family and everyone she loves, and all that's left are her 3 daughters and her son. Her son's some, you know, huge mutated creature of lava, and 2 of her daughters are attached to these monstrosities, these spiders, and the last one is the only one that's pretty well sane, and she just, oh no, sorry, there's 4, because there's the one that's insane and guards the mother. But seriously, it's like, are you the good guy because you're killing your daughter, who's this spider chick who attacks you right when you join her, or are you the bad guy because she's just trying to keep her sister alive, who's saving the people who are I believe it was the people who were poisoned. So, you know, it's something to think about. It's definitely a thought-provoking game. Like, if there's any game that I would say could bear the argument that video games are close to art, I think it would be Dark Souls. Among other games, of course, there's a lot of very, very good games out there that are artistic, but Dark Souls manages to basically balance being artistic, having a deep story, with being a fun game that has very good mechanics, which, I mean, we've seen this from other games that are story-driven games. It's not easy to make a game with a good story, but not a story that's hitting you over the head, and make it a very, very rewarding game and a very rewarding story to go through. Well, okay, maybe not rewarding, more like depressing, but still, you know, it's a lot different from, you know, you're the hero that everyone needs. There's nothing you can do wrong unless you pick the bad dialogue choices that are specifically said to be the bad dialogue choices. I mean, in Dark Souls, not a lot of people think about it, but you do have a lot of choices in the game. In this, I've made the choice not to kill the Tauros demon, so Solaire is no longer in my game. I've not made the choice whether or to kill the. Wow, that didn't make any sense. I've not killed the Gaping Dragon. I think. I don't. Maybe. I think I have, but I'm trying to not kill some of the bosses that I can avoid killing. Like, I think I'm just gonna leave the Tauros demon for last and just kill him once, you know, I've got super powerful weapons, which I'm assuming I won't have because you can't really in Dark Souls unless you're rolling specific builds. But anyways, yeah, Dark Souls is a very ambiguous game, and that's why I love it. So, the only thing though, because Dark Souls 2, it's inevitable that it's going to be compared to Dark Souls 1. I mean, sure, the story is set very, very far in the future so that the choice in the ending doesn't really matter, which I find is a cool way to, you know, make a sequel to a game that has an open ending, which has been extremely hard for game developers lately. Because, I mean, if you've got a choice in the ending, which one's canon if it continues? Is it the bad choice that's canon, like in Metro Last Light? Or is it the good choice that's canon, like in some game that you could probably mention before I can think of one? But in Dark Souls, it doesn't matter. The flames will fade. You know, you're set very, very far in the future with references to Dark Souls characters from the past. Just like how, you know, Demon Souls is set in a very, very far-off land with a completely different story. So as sad that I know that it's going to get compared to Dark Souls right away, we can't really, because, I mean, it's going to be its own game. It's changing enough that I think it's going to be like how Demon Souls and Dark Souls are two games that you can take on their own right. They kind of have the same type of controls, which are they're pretty original. Like, I don't know, I haven't played a lot of different Japanese games, so I think that they're pretty unique controls that, you know, spice things up, but they actually are very tight controls and they keep the game fun, and as long as you get used to them, they're actually better than, I know a lot of people, and everyone's always made this comparison, Dark Souls to Skyrim. And what I want to look at is, you know, I know it's really disjointed this Let's Play, because I'm not really talking about the gameplay at all, just because, I mean, you can see what's going on in the gameplay. I'm recording this after the fact, and you know what, I think that if you guys want to watch the video and experience the game, I'm going to be uploading another one that's just the music and just me playing, which I think I might run parallel to this Let's Play of me just talking. Just so that way, if you don't like to hear my voice and prefer my videos where it's just video and just music that I like or am playing at the time, then you guys can enjoy that. But anyway, back to this. The one thing I want to talk about comparing Dark Souls to Skyrim is it's very interesting how Skyrim is an open-ended game that feels linear, and Dark Souls is a linear game that feels open-ended. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if you think about it, Dark Souls has levels. Every time you enter a new level, it gives you the title card. You know, Darkroot Garden, Depths, White Town, Sen's Fortress. It'll present you the title so you know what level you're going to be going through. And a lot of these levels are very, very well made, so that way, you know, even if you're backtracking, you still feel like you're exploring. Whereas Skyrim feels like it's a more linear game almost because of the convenience it gives its player. Basically, yes, when you exit Skyrim, you don't have to do anything. You can do whatever you want. You can go become the master of the Dark Brotherhood, or you can become the Dragonborn and save the world, you know, in the second day. But in Dark Souls, in Skyrim, let me finish. In Skyrim, when you look over the mountain, you can look over the land and go, you know, I can walk there. It might take a while, but I can get there. And I know it's an open world. Dark Souls also manages to have those points in the game. I mean, if you think about it, there's a lot of points in the game where if you look over it, Tomb of the Giants is a great example, and you can see other areas in the game that you will meet, that you will visit, or that you have visited. And it makes the levels just intertwine in really, really unique ways through shortcuts. So, you know, I've experienced the game and I've walked a lot of miles in these games, and you know, it's not like Skyrim where you get bored of it after a while. You know, you're just, you know, sprinting, and then there's a cave or X landmark up ahead. And my other problem with Skyrim is those landmarks. There's not really. It just feels so convenient. You know, you go through this cave, and you're going farther and farther in this cave, deeper and deeper, and then you fight a boss, and then, oh hey, you know, what's this chain do? Oh, it opens a door that lets me exit out the cave in 5 seconds? And every cave is like that? Like, I understand that, you know, that's really nice to do for a player, because it's like, oh man, in Oblivion, you get through this long, long Iliad ruin. Sometimes they would have an exit, but sometimes it wasn't as easy to find. I mean, let's be honest, Oblivion was harder than Skyrim. You know, it didn't lead you by the hand the whole way, but it was really fun, and I loved Oblivion. So, you know, you get to these caves, and you're like, oh, well, time to leave by walking all the way back out. Now, sure, that's annoying, because, you know, you've already killed everything in the cave, and now you gotta leave, but it gives the game more substance. You know, it makes the world feel bigger. You know, if you're just gonna enter a cave, go through the cave, and leave out the door, that just kind of feels like a simple level, or it's not very immersive when every single cave has that hidden door. You know, does everyone just install these into caves and in towers? And I mean, my house doesn't have a secret cave. Whereas, you know, Dark Souls, the shortcuts do make sense. You know, there's this gate that you obviously see early in the burg, and you're like, okay, I wonder where that goes. You know, you start exploring a little bit. You get into the parish, which is more like a castle. It's a very, very nice place. You know, it's cool. There's a lot of good level design. All the areas are unique, and hell, even going back to the burg, it's still cool. I wish someone would get a really nice updated texture pack of just the burg. But, you know, it's at this point, you know, asking for texture packs for a game when the sequel's coming out is kind of absurd. So I'm just going to wait patiently for Dark Souls 2. Which, another thing that I'm kind of sad that I'm thinking about already, but I probably is the realistic part of me that's thinking this way, is that I'm hoping very, very soon after Dark Souls 2 is released for the PC, I'm assuming it's going to need a DS fix too. I know that's pessimistic for me to say, because like, you know, Dark Souls original, it wasn't really planned to be on the PC at all. I'm so glad that there was, like, I think there was a petition that got them to see, you know, hey, there is a huge audience on the PC. And the other thing I like about Dark Souls being on PC is PC games usually their servers stay open, or, you know, there's always people playing them, because computer games have this timeless style. Unlike console games, which, I mean, I'm sure the PS4 and Xbox One are trying to be PCs, but, you know, that's a different video and a whole different conversation. But I also find it funny that Dark Souls 2 isn't coming out on the Xbox One or PS4. I know that it's coming out a little bit later on the PC, but I haven't really looked into the Xbox One or PS4 whether or not they're getting it. So if you're like, hey, yeah, they are getting it, they're just not getting it right away, then, you know, sorry for being wrong. But, you know, I don't give a shit about the Xbox One or PS4, just because they don't really, like, when you picture the change, it doesn't really seem appealing when you think about it. I mean, sure, everyone's already said this, you know, the old consoles like the GameCube and the PS2 and all that, it was their simplicity that made them survive. Like, you know, people still play N64 to this date, and it doesn't have, you know, you can control your TV through it and all that stuff. It's just because it was a good game console. You know, if people want, you know, to play their TV and play NFL and all this and still game, maybe they should look at getting a PC, because then you can just have an internet open. I was about to say an Internet Explorer, but that would be terrible. Have Google Chrome or Firefox or something open. Have anything you want. Netflix, you know, reading a comic, reading the news, watching your favorite podcast, watching a Let's Play. You can do whatever you want on the computer while you're playing a game. I dual monitor my games, and I feel like the biggest nerd ever, but I love it because I can play a game, I can watch a movie, I can learn about the entire lore of Dark Souls and all the individual characters while playing it. Which is kind of funny because it's kind of like reading a book while watching the movie of the book. But hey, whatever works, right? Now, another comment about this particular Let's Play is that I've got quite a few different mods on, nothing like save editors or anything that's gonna, you know, make it so the game's easier, but just some cool textures. Sense Fortress looks a lot nicer with it. Like, my god, it looks amazing, and, you know, I like Sense Fortress. It's a kind of a cool place once you get used to it, and everyone usually hates it. Like, the Iron Golem fight isn't really a super difficult fight, especially if you summon Tarkus, unless you have like a shitty weapon like mine that does no damage. But yeah, as you can see, I've got a bunch of textures. The brass golem. Expect to see a lot more as I get farther into the game, or less. I don't know. I'd have to double check. But anyways, poor Tarkus. Poor Tarkus. So where was I before, or what should I talk about now? I guess Dark Souls 2, I'm gonna get it for sure. I might even do a Let's Play of it the first day, just because I have a capture card for my Xbox. So, you know, expect that. This is just kind of in the intermediary, or in the meantime, sorry, doing this just for something fun to do. Kind of the lead up of Dark Souls. It's kind of sad thinking that this is probably going to be my last Dark Souls character for a long time, until, you know, I'm sick of Dark Souls 2. Unless, you know, I'm hoping nothing like this happens, but unless Dark Souls 2 is a flop because it's trying to be too much and doesn't manage. But FromSoft is a good developer, and I don't see that happening. So I think they're smart. And as bad as it sounds, like, usually Japanese developers are much more smart with their games, and like, they don't take as many stupid risks as American publishers. Yeah, you can call me like a weeaboo or whatever, but that's my opinion. But yeah, I don't think it's gonna be bad. I think it's gonna be great. It's gonna be interesting to see how it's a team game, though, seeing as Dark Souls is a very, very dark game, and It's just gonna be interesting to see how it pulls that off. And one last thing is, because I know we're getting close to the end here, I've always really, most people compare Dark Souls to Skyrim because they came out around the same time. I find Dark Souls kind of like a, I don't know why, a Legend of Zelda kind of. Not really with the gameplay because it's not a puzzle game or anything like that, but just because in Zelda there's a lot of story, but it's not hitting you over the face. And you know, a good example of that is Majora's Mask, if you check out a lot of the lore for that. But that's basically it. There's Sen's Fortress in a nutshell, if you actually were paying attention to the video. Thank you again for watching. I don't know how these are gonna work, but I'm probably gonna do not just voiceover video for Dark Souls 2, I'm actually gonna do a full Let's Play. So that'll be interesting to see. In the meantime, I'll see you guys next episode whenever I decide to make it.